I'm the chairman of the board of General Orbital Corporation. General Orbital was formed for the purpose of developing an inflatable technology to take human beings all the way to orbital space. It's a multi-part program. We believe that launching from a very high altitude with an inflatable craft that's buoyant at high altitude provides a number of benefits, the most important of which is a very low G ride into space and a very low G ride recovery. These inflatable vehicles are very large, so they can do aerobraking at very high altitude, literally above 100 miles, where Space Shuttle does a ballistic braking that creates a plasma plume. They absorb all of their energy in a matter of a few minutes and slow from literally Mach 17 all the way down to Mach 2 below 40,000 feet. This creates high G loading, an incredibly dangerous circumstance. The technology we're pursuing should be inherently much more safe and give a much gentler ride into Earth orbit. So it's our considered opinion that we need to have a number of infrastructure subsystems in place in order for space technology to actually pay off. Gerard K. O'Neill, in his book, The High Frontier, defined ignition point as a time when there were enough humans to sustain themselves in space without the support of Earth. I think there's a more important ignition point that we can define, and that's when more money is coming from space than is going into space technologies. We can say in a kind of a hypothetical way what's going to be required for that. Heavy lift launch facilities, preferably two to make them competitors. Human lift vendors, transportation vendors, preferably two, so there's competition. And an industrial space station that will handle space-based human operations. The path between here and that ignition point, when there's actually a return on investment, is simply too long. The risks are so diverse that our current financial institutions are simply not set up to deal with the scope of risk. They're simply not set up to deal with the time frames, and they are certainly not set up to deal with the huge amounts of dollars. Almost every space company I've talked to is estimating that they can put a man in orbit for 100 million, unless they goof up, in which case the price is 200 million. I've heard this from entrepreneurs of every stripe, including those words coming out of my mouth. The fact of the matter is that is not a saleable proposition, given the fact that we can't identify all the technological risks. We're almost certain that we're going to kill people in the process of the development. Mistakes are god-awful expensive and could double or triple the cost of a project. And the time frame to a return on investment when you can expect money coming back is way outside anybody's current reasonable expectations. If we pursue the current path of letting governments blaze the trail, eventually they will become the trail and the trail masters, and we can kiss our chances of moving substantial human populations off planet goodbye. As far as I can tell, the dream only comes true when we build enough infrastructure that we can have literally cities in human orbit conducting science, art, education, all of the human activities that Pete Worden speaks about in space. And that ain't going to happen in a dinky little zero-gravity International Space Station. It is not going to happen with any of NASA's current projects. Returning to the moon will not move human populations into space. A Mars mission will not do it. As far as I can tell, people like Robert Bigelow, who has committed $1 billion of his personal dollars in putting up a space hotel, is the only man who is staying true to the dream that was spelled out by Gerard K. O'Neill. And his dream is, let's take advantage of the resources of our solar system to enhance human life on Earth and throughout the solar system. No program that I've seen is going for that target, and no mechanisms, no financial mechanisms or institutions exist that are in a position to support that class of dream. The reality is that this human race has the capability of destroying itself and the planet that we were brought up on. We have the capability of destroying our environment, our race, and most of the life on the planet. one of the only fail-safe mechanisms we have is to move a substantial portion of human life off planet in a self-sustaining space environment, a space habitat. We have the technology. It's tough technology, but it's not undoable. We have the money on our planet, though it's not configured in a way to be able to help. We have the willpower, and always have had. The spirit is there. The human race wants to go. And it's our institutions, organizations, and financial tools that really are not allowing for this to happen. It's not for lack of vision. It's not for lack of money. It's not for lack of desire to be in space. It's simply a structural flaw that won't allow projects of this sort to be funded. That same structural flaw occurred when Genghis Khan wanted to do the silk trade. He had to invent new financial instruments to just do the silk trade. We had to invent corporations to finance the boat trips around the south of Africa and to finance the discovery and the migration of the New World. We had to develop new instruments such as trust organizations when the human migration went across this American continent. It looks to me like we need to invent new institutions and new financial instruments that are capable of aggregating larger dollars, spreading risk ever thinner, and preparing ourselves for a longer repayment time and amortization schedule to a return on investment. If we can't make those specific financial changes in our financial institutions and mechanisms, our tools, it doesn't matter that the technology is ready. It doesn't matter that we want to go. It doesn't matter that the resources of an entire solar system are at our disposal. It doesn't matter that the wealth of our solar system could be tapped given proper effort. Because if we can't develop the financial tools to fund it, it won't happen. Now, I could be wrong. I've had financial people tell us that our financial tools are adequate to the task. Why isn't it happening then? As far as I can tell, when you walk into a venture capitalist, they want a corner of the market. Now, on an international scale, we seem to be wise enough to see that our trading partners are our allies and not our enemies. And that the best way to turn an enemy into an ally is to become trading partners, a spirit of cooperation. In the financial world, we still see an attitude of dog eat dog. I get the deal before you do. That means I win and you lose. And as long as those kinds of proprietary attitudes exist in our financial world, I don't see how the dream of mankind in orbit tapping the resources of space is going to come true. I just don't see how it's going to happen. The question is, how can we reconfigure our financial institutions? Historically, the only time competition has given way to cooperation is under two circumstances: in the face of a common enemy, or in the case where the gain is so large that cooperation to go after that profit is clear. Today, there is no threat that will drive us into space, and there is no credible promise of profit that will break the me first, I get mine, I don't care whether you get yours attitude that is part and parcel of our financial community, and in fact heralded by our financial community as the very mechanism that brings prosperity to the earth. While this may be true in casinos, car factories, or any other economic and terrestrial economic activity, it will never be true of space because it simply takes too many people, too many ideas. We have too much to haul up there to be able to simply say it's going to happen if we can cooperate.